If I had a nickel for every time I fought a boss in this game with damage reaction jiggle physics, I'd have precisely 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's all you need to know in order to figure out the type of person this game was made for. Hi, I'm Alec the Band with EGC, and welcome to Greatest RPG Ever, where I go over as many RPGs as possible and try to figure out how good they actually are so you don't have to. Like the video down below and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. Today I bring you Gal Guardians, Servants of the Dark, a sequel to the metroidvania side-scroller action RPG Gal Guardians Demon Purge. This game is developed and produced by Inti Creates, who actually have a pretty extensive catalog of RPGs they're responsible for, all of which seem to focus on the more old-school game aesthetic with characters drawn in a more traditional anime style. One of the more famous titles that stands out is Yohane the Parhelion, Blazed in the Deep Blue. Nice. And apparently they're all on sale at the time of recording, so I picked a good time to start this series. Now let's dive in. Behold, intro music. Open the game and we are met with 3 difficulty modes. Casual for the unclean, Veteran for real gamers, and Challenge for people who think taking more damage is a real mechanic. I choose Veteran. There's a 2-player co-op mode for playing the game with your friends, but I don't have friends, so I will be going with single player. Cue the lore dump in the form of a whole-ass anime opening. The short version is that there are 3 worlds, the world of angels, humans, and demons. This is entirely fluff as the whole of the game takes place in the demon realm. We are then given an entire anime opening made of 2D animated art pieces and a musical voiceover complete with contextless spoilers and fan service. Anybody who loves anime will probably love this, and that includes myself. Start off with the 2 main characters. Massive boobs with pink hair is Kirika, and the green-haired one is Masha. The game is fully voice acted in Japanese. There is no English version, but there are English subtitles, which is how I usually prefer my anime anyway. They're coming back from a long vacation when, suddenly, we see a demon castle on fire. I love how it zooms out to show the smoking building in the distance. One thing we'll find that's fantastic about these old-school type games is that, while they don't offer as much in the way of graphics, the tools and creativity they use to stylize their limited displays pop that much more. Note, they're both sisters, and they each have a streak of each other's hair color in the front of their head, but Masha's matches her skin tone so closely that it looks like she's covering up a really bad bald spot. I can't unsee this, and now neither will you. Tutorial time. X to jump, crouch is down, L1 to dash. This is a Steam game, so of course there is no default support for PlayStation-style control schema. Why is this such a common problem? Kirika uses a ranged weapon, a submachine gun with apparently a shotgun in her back pocket that can be activated by using the attack button while dashing. The reload button is a weird choice. Double press crouch to reload, but you can also reload by simply emptying the gun. L2 to change characters. Masha specializes in a whip. She's got a regular triple attack combo plus a special hop backwards attack that can dodge and deal damage at the same time. The whip can do a charge attack based on the special seeds you can pick up around the game. Note, I had no idea this attack could be charged for 90% of the game, and this will cause me an immeasurable amount of pain equivalent to about 2 hours. That is because, when I first played through this, the tutorials did not have button guides for all of the actions you could take on the tutorial windows, but they fixed this in a later update. The majority of enemies will flinch you when you hit them, so attacking first and attacking often is the name of the game. Most enemies with shields cannot be harmed from the front by Kirika's gun, so Masha is essential, but there are also multiple enemies that are out of reach, so balancing both and switching when necessary is going to be a key point in playing. Triangle and square use special items dropped by enemies throughout the game. Special weapons consume demon points denoted at the bottom of the screen. This will become a big point of criticism later for me when discussing items in the game. And now for revival. Somebody has betrayed the castle staff and the entire area is under attack. This old dragon man collapses under the weight of his responsibilities and dies. When you die, your soul leaves your body and your bones collapse into a pile on the floor. When this happens, you have to smash the interact button in order to use the immense weight of your chest to do soul CPR and push it back into their body. This is the same mechanic you use when one of your controllable characters also dies, so it's cool that they also implemented this mechanic into the overworld storytelling. The old man tells us that the attackers came when security was lightest, implying that there is a traitor among the castle staff, and with that we head into the main castle to protect the castle's master. Couple of quick mechanical introductions. Touching enemies hurts. When you kill them, there's a chance that they drop special weapons that you can assign to a special button, defaulted to triangle and circle. There are a huge variety of monsters throughout this game that have different strategies for how you tackle them, from shields to teleporting and flying. Different weapons will have either a more difficult or easier time dealing with them depending on what they are. Oh look, there's switch puzzles. You can freely flip any of the switches you see back and forth to open and close these unmovable gates as you see fit. Chests are often in difficult to reach areas that require you to keep a lookout for crates. If you break them too soon, you won't be able to reach them and you'll need to reload the area. There's also a nice little rummaging around animation that happens when you open one. Whenever you use a sword or bladed weapon to defeat an enemy, it creates a lovely violent effect whereby they get split in half and get a little blood spray. The map can be accessed via select, and you can even keep it open while you move around, but if you use the attack button, it will close on its own. The locations we've been to will be automatically shown, and doorways, fast travel points, and treasure chest locations are marked. You will spend a lot of time referring to this menu whenever you're trying to get to the next locale. There are enemies that pop up out of the background windows, which makes the features of the environment more than just decorative, and I love this because it would have been easy to just have a massive hallway filled with enemies, but no, they actively incorporated it. Through the window, the game uses parallax layering to give the impression of depth without programming it. It's a must-have in all of these old-school style games to help them feel depth without the need to dedicate the excess resources to actually creating depth. Whenever an enemy shoots a projectile at you, the projectiles are destructible. If you hit them with either the gun or the whip, you can effectively block 99% of the attacks that enemies spit out at you. Here's a mechanic that will see as much abuse as possible. Reloading an area reloads ground items, so if there is something here that will grant you an infinite resource, it's an easy cheese. We finally make our way into the throne room, but suddenly the demon lord is killed in a flash of lightning and you can see his bones shoot out all over the room after he's killed. That's pretty fucking metal for an anime game. It turns out the head maid is the traitor. You can tell she's the top maid because her chest is the biggest. Turns out she's actually a loyalist to Lord Lysanorg and sent us on vacation to create an opening to enter and kill the king of the castle after learning the secret to his demonic power. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering why she's bothering to tell us all of this. Boss fight time! She has a couple of attacks related to her scythe as well as a move whereby she raises up a bunch of pillars and lights the ground on fire. All these moves can be dodged by jumping, so I do my best to time things properly to keep off the ground so she's not too much trouble. During the fight, there is a rain effect overlaid with the background complete with lightning flashes and sound effects. It's a great environmental detail that I appreciate upon rewatching the gameplay. She hits us with the arch-nemesis line and flees, leaving us to mourn the death of the Demon King. When suddenly, a voice calls out and a floating flaming skull appears proclaiming itself to be the king. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. Maxim Onslaught Realm Razor Legrand III. This is the single edgiest name I have ever heard in my life. And that's coming from a guy who played World of Warcraft. If I wrote a character named Longest Dickus Maximus and then turned him into Mimir at home, you know I'm taking the piss. Even for an anime game, this is a lot to take in. At first, the girls don't believe him, but apparently Masha is part Greyhound because she sniffs him and says, actually, no, it's actually him. During this whole exchange, the models actually go through the animations in line with their dialogue. Now, it would have been all too easy to have either plastered a still over this shot or left the character standing still and called it a day, so I really appreciate that they've put in a little extra effort. Turns out he managed to escape death, but his bones were scattered far away when he was attacked, and in order to restore his power, we need to find them and put them back together again. And this is how the game's level up system works. Go around, collect his bone, deposit them into the throne, and level up, unlocking different upgrades and abilities. This is essential to advancing throughout the game. Note, he says that he can sense when his bones are near, but this never has any actual effect in-game. Once I start traversing the map, I immediately notice that the movement is slippery. It's as if the floor is covered by whatever is in Diddy's mansion. We always carry over a little bit of movement whenever we turn or jump. Dashing and jumping doesn't keep momentum the entire time. When the dash runs out, so does the speed boost we get and the momentum push, as shown by the after images disappearing. Whenever Masha drops, she throws her arms up because she wears tights underneath and has nothing to hide. But Kirika pulls her skirt down. I'll let your imagination fill in the gaps. Note that the special demon seeds can only be picked up if Masha is out. Get a demon glyph immediately after encountering a door. I go back, open it up, and we have more area to explore. So far, there have been so many spots that are just ever so slightly out of reach. So I check our destination on the map and find that we need to head back. Find the old man who asked us to look for the souls of the servants like the one we found earlier in order to restore them. These fountains give us money. I have no idea what money is useful for yet. Same stone wall mechanic, and eventually we find our way to a small boss arena, so here we go. Second boss fight. Dodge when he drops, use the boxes to avoid the flying rocks, and whenever he dives at you. He repeats this infinitely, so just shoot him until he dies. An important mechanic to note here is how damage affects all enemies, including bosses. Whenever there is an instance of damage, there is also a momentary frame skip that delays anything that character is doing for about 1 tick. This means that by using Kirika's gun, we can actually make certain easily dodgeable attacks take longer to execute, as well as delay the enemy from changing locations. Beat the boss, and not only does he drop Maxim's bone, but immediately after that we find a servant's soul. Look at this hidden destructible passageway I couldn't see before due to where I was on the map. It gives us a nice little shortcut, and that's cool. Small issue with the map that comes up a lot. The navigation is limited and you can't always go the way you expect. There is absolutely no guidance on how you are meant to get to that flag, so good luck. Floating head tells us to use the bone on the throne and we level up, bumping up our stats and unlock a new ability. The classic double jump. And now we have an RPG. All those barely inaccessible areas from before can now be reached properly. When the maids double jump, they actually flap the wings on their waist, which doubles the skirt to their maid uniform. Not gonna lie, that's a really cool level of detail. I love all of the little touches that they do in order to make the little sprite graphics pop. We also get this cutesy little still photo highlighting precisely why Kirika has all the features necessary to be the main character. We resurrect one of the anime girl's servants and unlock the difficulty system. Nope, the in-game explanation for why we can change the difficulty is that she has the ability to alter one's fate, and apparently he is the only person in the demon world noble enough not to use literal hashtag life hacks. Each servant tends to unlock a different system. Remember the old dragon man from before? He doubles as a tutorial library. Also remember how I said this game used to not have button tutorials? For the entire first half of my playthrough, I had no idea how to charge Masha's whip or reload Kirika's gun without emptying the magazine. This has since been changed, although some footage is shown from my first playthrough and doesn't reflect this. Another change, remember the bone counter on the top left corner of the map? That was not there in my first playthrough, and I will discuss exactly why this is a problem later. Standing still long enough results in a cutesy animation and voiceover effects that change depending on which character you have at the time. Cute. Demon Mir tells us to go to the Cursed Tavern and try to talk to the Demon Lord Dranus, so we head out and go down. I think I accidentally start backtracking because I go into an area and killing a random NPC drops another Demon Lord bone. And another one. Okay, so there are 2 separate ways to collect the bones. Random NPC drops from a specific kind in certain areas, and certain specific chests and encounters that have a set amount of bones in them. Got it. We come across this ghost/slime hoarder creature, give him a little bit of money from the fountain, and he increases our inventory capacity. Nice. Level up again and unlock demon healing. Whenever the head glows, we can press and hold R1 to get a burst of healing. Running by this statue restores all of our DP. Different statues give different effects, so they help a lot when exploring. Demon Chef's soul is restored, coming back at random times gives healing items. These purple spike plants can't be destroyed, but touching them doesn't cause instant death, so we can tank it to get to this chest and get demon timber. No clue what this is, but we'll find out later. The area down here is dark and can only be illuminated either by a light source or the floating head, so we quickly find a lantern item and put that on for the entire time we're down here. Note that walking past the unlit lantern spots lights up the area. That's a cool detail. Make it down to the bottom and we get a horde encounter. We've seen every one of these enemies before. Kill everything and survive to get 10 more bones. There's a very conspicuous wall, but nothing I can do breaks through, so we move on and finally enter the castle. Go back to the throne room and unlock a new ability, the mid-air dash. Another movement option to get into those harder to reach areas. Let's talk fast travel. There's 2 ways to do it, both from different points in the game. The first are the rest areas scattered throughout the map you can use to return to the throne room as well as to save the game. The second is any of the many variations of anime girl Karen, with a K, that can take you to any other Karen for an inconsequential fee. The Spider-Man offers to rebuild the castle and make us some weapons, so he's a shop. Cool. Back to the chateau. Look how these statues transform into flying batwing demon heads. I love how the game uses the environments creatively. Speaking of creative mechanics, we've got a new mechanic. Breakable floors. You know what I hate more than bad loot? Mimics. I still get nightmares from Dark Souls 1. And you know what I hate more than mimics? 2 mimics. Right next to each other. Because f*** me, right? I'll be keeping my eye out for this later. There's this cool climbing spider chain elevator bit. Functionally, it's simple, but thematically, it's an incredible artistic touch that I can appreciate. Sometimes the chandeliers above your head fall down on you, so area traps have been added as a mechanic, but you can avoid them by just getting close and letting them fall down. Go to the next area and get this cutscene. A dragon lady resting on a heap of gold. She lets us know that she doesn't believe in generational debt, so if we're gonna take our stash back, it's gonna be over Kobayashi's tears, so here we go. Demon Lord Dranus. Oh cool, a boss fight. Wonder what kind of epic transformation we have in store for us. Oh, is it a giant dragon? Maybe I need to recheck the tags on Steam. She attacks by spitting oil, followed by fire breath, as well as dropping her pots, chest, and valuables. She also drops treasure boxes. If you try to open them, surprisingly, they actually work, but you won't have enough time before she smacks you with her tail and takes it away. She has 2 hit zones, her head and her boobs. Smacking the boobs activates jiggle physics. Hitting her in the face does nothing with her hair, making it very clear what the developer's intentions were. Keep shooting and eventually she goes down and explodes for some reason. We'll never see her again, but she drops a charm that gives us an extra jump. I'm sure that'll be useful. Journey around a little bit more and find a shop where I can buy some more charms. Level up. Next upgrade is additional special weapon loadouts. Okay, we swap through loadouts with the D-pad, but this honestly feels pretty weak for an upgrade. It seems like something that should just come standard with the weapon system. Back at the castle, we talk to the old dragon man, and he gives us our next round of objectives. If you play the demo, this is where the game ends. Everything beyond this point you have to pay for in the main game. Give the demon timber to the spider, and he says the castle has been restored, but he needs to do more. Go into his shop, and I have no idea what I'm doing. He says he can upgrade, but I click on it and all it seems to do is eat my cash stack. Same for skills. Seriously, is it too much to ask for a decent tutorial here? I mean, come on. This game was made in 2023, not 1998. We were aiming to capture the appeal and charm of old games, and that is fantastic. Please, leave behind all the old terrible bits like lack of explaining your mechanics. Bring the mimics back to life, and they function as additional storage for items you gather. Next, we resurrect the 2-headed Cyclops, and he acts as an in-game controls for multiplayer, so for people like me who don't have friends, he's essentially useless. You can equip charms to the demon head for special buffs and effects, but they don't tell you which ones are already equipped, making using them that small bit more confusing. This part of the game is generally terrible. You see that flag on the map? That shows us where we're meant to be, but there are no hints or navigation as to how we are meant to get there. Oftentimes you will head to the general area just to realize that an additional space is unreachable because it's cut off for that section of the map, which you didn't have before. Back to the forest and find more of these purple blocks I can't break, leading me to this important point. The amount of bones we need to get through the game is unspecified, but we will need to reach the threshold to unlock certain abilities in order to advance the game. This is hinted at during different segments where the floating head will mention needing more of his power, but it will never be laid out just how much that is, or when exactly we should be focusing on grinding bone drops versus just playing the game. There is no way for us to tell how much more you need, and no ability to track what you already have except for going to the throne room and seeing what you've gathered. This was fixed in a later update where they added the bone counter to the different segments of the map, but for the playthrough that I'm showing you all, I had absolutely nothing. These corpse trees are very suspicious, but actually serve absolutely no in-game function. At this point, I realized that green hair's attacks are chargeable, and that's how you use the seed items. All of this wasted time and confusion could have been 100% avoided by having a proper tutorial when I first started playing, but this has since been fixed, as I spoke of before, so I digress. Explore some more and discover the Trader's Rapids. We've suddenly transitioned into a frozen snowy area, but the trees from the forest are still in the background and the ground doesn't seem to match up with it. There's a DP Restore statue here and a giant body of water. Test number 2, can I swim? No. Jumping over it is also not an option, it goes too far. Cool little detail here, whenever you drown in water, it causes the voice dialogue to gain an underwater gurgling effect, which is a cool little attention to detail. Falling chandeliers have been replaced by falling frozen stalactites, and these ice lizards are the absolute bane of my fucking existence. If they touch you, you will be frozen solid for 10 excruciating seconds in which you cannot attack, cannot switch, and will more than likely be tackled again. It fucking sucks. To make matters worse, they absolutely love to switch up their timing whenever they feel like it, and I hate whoever designed this. One thing this area does a really good job of is combining the jump pads, floating platforms, and moving floors. All cool platforming mechanics that engage the player with the environment. This is good design, and I hope this continues. Level up and get a new power called Rescue Swap. Switching as soon as one of the girls takes fatal damage will heal them and prevent them from dying, so it's a way for you to save yourself in the event of a mistake. Throughout the entire game, I will very rarely do this. The only way to return to the main area is blocked until I am able to get this platform moving, but for now, it's stuck. Go back, continue exploring as normal until I come across a boss room and a cutscene. Now, for context, this is the second game of the series, and the first game involved these two characters, but I really don't know anything about them other than that. This fight is actually pretty challenging. So the first sister shoots a gun, but with rockets and grenades like Kirika. The second fights using a melee weapon and several shikigami and throwing weapon-themed attacks, often combining their abilities. Using all of my mobility options helps to avoid most of the damage, but the penguin shikigami puts ice on the floor that cranks the sliding physics up to an 11. I wind up using a healing item here to get an edge. Repeat this for a few minutes, and I barely win at the last moment. We make up, and they admit they were crazy because she looks at us and thinks, for no particular reason, we are not bad demons after all. Despite the fact that we were literally fighting to the death seconds ago. And then she gives me their grandmother's dinner recipe as a parting gift. If you beat a boss while your partner is bones, they revive without having to resuscitate them only during the cutscene, but go back to being dead immediately after. Alright, give it to the demon chef to make a parfait. This fully restores your health. I will probably never use this item. So I finally figured out how the move skill option at the Spider Smith works. Selecting different items lets me move the bonuses to new items, and I can even enhance them by sacrificing other weapons. How hard is it to make a small tutorial for this? I never noticed that different items have different random bonuses, and by the way, some of these bonuses absolutely suck. Why is there a bonus that reduces your ammo in the game when I can replace it with a bonus that gives me double ammo? That's silly. Alright, I am very lost. Level up again and we get a third jump, and I remember a spike wall that was just out of reach, so I decided to give that a shot, but I don't remember where it is. And this is absolutely my fault, because if there was a spot I wanted to return to, I could make a mark on the map at any point. Speaking of the map, let's talk about the guidance in this game. It is absolutely non-existent. You get a little red flag that is in the area you are meant to go for major story points, but the unfilled map has absolutely no indication of which path you're meant to go through in order to get there. Up above, down below, a secret passage. You have no idea because there is no indicator and no trail. The only guidance you do have is if you look at the map, there is a thinly highlighted border on every block that shows whether or not there are more squares connected to it. The game is relatively open world, so you don't need to hit them in any particular order as long as you get to them all. But if you don't go in a particular order, then you will be stuck grinding much more than necessary in order to try and make any sort of progress in the game. And you will have no idea which is the correct option, which dramatically sours the experience of playing. And, as mentioned before, you will have no idea which bones you already have, making this take way longer than necessary. And I have no clue about where to head next, so after 2 hours of running in circles, I finally give up and look it up. We're going to the desert. This is pretty cool. Soft red and pink palette with a giant demon skull in the back to give the implications of depth and scale. This is awesome. For all the effort they put into the environments, the rest areas come off as remarkably video gamey. Like a random T-bench in a demonic garden is one thing. A random T-bench in a vast open frozen plain or a dry desert in the middle of nowhere is another, and it breaks up the mood considerably. Keep going and we get a boss fight. This boss is a giant, colossal, segmented worm. He splits up boulders and dives into the ground, randomly popping up like a diglet. Cool thing I discover, the Ice Heat charge attack stops him from moving and makes this way easier. Plus, I am way over leveled due to going to the ice area first, so this fight's trivial. This enemy gets trapped on the bouncy mushroom and it's hilarious. It's good to know that the platforming effects actually affect the monsters too and not just the player. Another cool thing they've added into this area is bloody tentacle plants that celebrate when you kill monsters. That is awesome. So there's a second sandworm and he needs to die to advance. This fight is identical to the first, so we kill him and acquire the charge lance. Fortunately, it overloads my inventory, so I don't risk losing it simply because my inventory is full. Unfortunately, I have to remove something from my inventory in order to equip any of my items. The charge lance is the only weapon type where you can actually charge the attack from a special weapon. Using it while standing still throws it straight, but if you jump it will angle down at a diagonal. It is able to break through those boulders we've seen around the map, and that just prevent us from advancing. We break through the wall and happen upon a shortcut back to the forest. Back at the castle, Poison Ivy from Timu joins us and says she can upgrade the whip. I give her 3 of the same kind of seed and she makes a permanent source of seeds at home base. Neat. Continue on and find sandworm number 3, Electric Boogaloo. Same as the first. Dead. Does the charge lance work on the purple blocks? No, it doesn't. Can you freeze water with the ice? No. Wander around the desert for about an hour, and I finally get to the next boss point. It's another sandworm. But hold on, there's something on top of it. Demon Lord Zuzu. So she's pissed as PETA that we killed her pets, so we fight. This time the rocks the worm's fire glow with a damaging aura, and Zuzu shoots death beams around us, which we have to dodge on top of the usual worm moveset. I'm pretty sure we're over level for this, because I absolutely trounce her and turn Zuzu into bones. Another cool effect I haven't noticed in the other fights, we can see the defeated worm's head in the background after she's been defeated. At the end of the map, we reach a demon desert town. It's the only one in the game, but the important part is that this merchant at the end has a large maximum bone in stock for 8,000 silver. We'll need to come back for that, but for now, I am way too broke to afford it. At this point, I am deeply lost, but I'm determined not to give up. I run around, collect some bones, level up a bunch, and I am rewarded with the Demon Dash ability, and holy hell, I am speed. The earlier problems with slow traversal throughout the landscape have effectively been replaced with infinite booster rockets that mow through my enemies, and I love this because it solves one of the least fun parts of running around through the map. But it also highlights an aspect of this game's design that I cannot agree with: poorly explained level lock progression. Demon Dash will allow me to run on water, which is the ability I needed in order to get to the other side of those huge bodies of water that have been blocking my way. But the only way to do that is by collecting random bone drops and picking up stashes of the King's Bone. It makes the completion of each area feel disconnected from the flow of the story, because whenever I defeat a boss, it doesn't necessarily give me the amount of bones I need, or say a special bone that unlocks the particular ability that I need in order to progress the story. It's random. Why am I going around killing bosses if I can progress to the next point of the narrative through random kills? It doesn't make sense for progression. Remember the glowing purple vines from earlier? Speed boost, baby! They come back if you leave the area though, and I still can't break those purple blocks, but I am absolutely shredding every enemy in my path. A quick note about demon speed: if you're already moving when you cast it, it'll just turn on as normal. But if you boost from a standstill, there's a quick zoom in to focus on the caster before zooming back out to the normal camera. Back to the castle, and Spider-Man says we finally have enough timber to fix the castle. One jump cut later, and the pillars in the back have been restored to show that the castle has been restored. Cool to see this small story beat being represented visually in the game. The bottom is completely blocked off by 3 gates, and there's nowhere to go, so this is clearly not the way to go. So I do my usual thing of going into the map and trying to hit up every possible area that hasn't been explored yet. Also, I spotted 3 mimic chests at the fountain now. Unfortunately, this does not actually increase the amount of storage we are offered, making it oddly disjointed from the usual visual storytelling we have of a visual change meaning something. The castle restored means we get extra abilities from the Spider-Man, etc., etc. This does nothing, it just means they had a baby. So, good for them, I guess? I don't know. I found another one of these bleeding trees. Okay, these are really cool, but they don't do anything. Like, why is this here? Is it just to be cool? Is it just to be edgy? I don't get it. Another wave fight, more bones, and eventually we get this cool section that combines the danger spikes, the water, crumbling platforms, horizontal mushrooms, and fans. This is a fantastic use of stacking mechanics for some interesting platforming that leads us to a shortcut that was previously cut off. A little more exploration, and we just so happen upon a hot spring with the girls from previous. Behold! Fan service, which I'm probably gonna cut because I actually value my channel and YouTube as being really weird about censorship. This game is intent on hitting every possible anime trope before I've hit the credits. They've also let us know that another demon lord has another one of the main bones, so we head out to his lair in Gluttony Castle in the Valley of Ginna. Do a little inventory management via deletion, and this kinda sucks. You need to go in and delete the items one at a time. There's no convenient mass deletions. Also, the Atlatl is just a flat-out upgrade over the Charge Lance and can also break stones, so we switched to that and we'll never use the Charge Lance again. We've got a few new items, fire geysers, as well as these lava octopus things that shoot eyeballs at you, as well as the floating platforms we've seen before. So when I look at the map, I can clearly see that it says I can go down into the lava pools, but I have no idea how that works. Can I jump down into it? No. So my guess, based on all the information that the game has given me, is that there will be some sort of special lever that I need to make this happen. Note, that is not the case, and the method for this will severely sour my experience with this game. Make my way down to Gluttony Castle, and Lysanor kills the Demon Lord with lightning again, takes his soul, and leaves us with Lysa, so it's time for round 2. Lysa is back with a few new moves. One, where she sits in a tree and fires off kisses that turn into deadly homing bats. The old attack, where she summons pillars, now causes the flames to jump up to the top, so just jump to avoid the damage. She'll turn into 4 bats and attack us in a pattern, just dodge that. Lastly, she'll plant her scythe in the center of the room before magically appearing and performing a pole dance routine while shooting out images of herself that damage you if they touch. Dodge as much as you can and hit her as much as possible, and eventually she'll go down. Suddenly, a demon comes crawling our way with Maxim's bone, literally on a silver platter. And with that, our main goal is achieved, and we skedaddle. Now the dialogue here implies that we have all the bones we need, which is great, but finding additional bones will make things easier for us. Head back to the throne to level up. This time I get additional sub-weapon loadouts. Okay, why is this tied to the level up system? Personally, I have no idea, because it feels like they just ran out of ideas and wanted there to feel like there was still some kind of progression. We resurrect a mariachi band that can only say the word amigos. I'm pretty sure that is the only Spanish words that the devs actually understand. Head back, give 3 ice seeds to Timu Poison Ivy, and I finally have 3 out of the 4 seeds we can get. Go back to the desert, grab the bone from the merchant, and level up again. This time we get the Devil Straight. This is literally a ripoff of Bayonetta's move from Smash Bros. We can finally smash through these purple blocks that have been blocking our way forward. So it takes away from some of the demon charge Maxim builds up. You can use it a max of 3 times before you have to wait for it to recharge. Each use will change his icon, first by lowering the intensity of the flames, then removing them entirely, followed by the glow in his eyes disappearing. Head to the final destination of Lysanor Castle, and Maxim decides to inform us about the Gazing Moon, a celestial event that only happens once every 666 years, because I guess that number is supposed to be sort of related to demons or whatever. He gives us some typical tropic foreboding banter before we head forward and find the castle is blocked by a barrier, so we head back to the advisor, and he tells us that the one person who may be able to help us is the Demon Lord Zuzu. You remember Zuzu. No, not that Zuzu. The lowly riding on the desert worms. The one we killed. Yeah, she was our only ticket forward, and she's dead now, but all is not lost. We need to go to the Dead Sea, retrieve her soul, and bring her back in order to see what she knows. We get a new flag, and we're off. Set up the final seed at home base, and Poison Ivy says that she'll give me something special to celebrate, but I check my inventory, and there's nothing there. I got nothing. What am I missing? Down we go. This wall of vines cannot be dashed through, though, and even Demon Fist can't break them, so I'm guessing we need to trigger something. Another wall of vines. What if I use the firebomb to burn it away? No. The spear? No. How the hell am I supposed to get past this? I'm actually stuck with no way to move forward. The ice seeds actually freeze them, but don't break them, so I know they're at least interactable. So this at least gives me an idea, but if it's right, it's gonna piss me off. Head back to the castle, gather the fire seeds, and run back down and let off a charged whip attack, and the vines burn away. I hate this design choice for two big reasons. Number one, it is inconsistent within the game's internal logic. The things called firebomb do fire damage. Therefore, things affected by fire should burn away, right? Wrong. You have to use the Masha's whip for the fire damage or the game ignores it. Number two, there is absolutely nothing in the game to suggest that this is how you were meant to solve this. There is no enemy that is capable of destroying the vines as a hint, no tooltips to suggest this, and in prior instances where we have had to destroy obstacles before, we had Maxim to give us a hint on how to tackle the problem. When this problem pops up, not even our ultimate Demon Fist move can get rid of it. You have to use the specific tool intended for it, which means that you have to go around the map to find those seeds, come back, and progress the story. Good luck if you haven't been collecting them. And you know what else? You don't even need to use the charge attack. I jump up, strike at the vines, and they burn away. The element of the whip changes depending on which seeds you have next in Masha's inventory. This is never explained in my playthrough, and I only discovered it by accidentally swinging at everything. Explore a bit more and flip some switches and get to this giant plant. This is a dead end for now, so after trying literally everything in my power to make something happen, I look at the map only to realize that there is literally no way down from here. So, I do what this game makes the player do all the time. I wander aimlessly from place to place with no meaningful direction. Smashing these glowing rocks causes a save point to drop down, as well as open up a new area. This is the only point in the game where this happens, and it's pretty cool. This area with the giant gear snake is cool. He smashes through, opening up the area for us. We can get through it with the lance, of course, but it's better to have him do the work for us. See that chest up there? Attacking this wall reveals little cubbies that will be carved out to use as footholds. That is a nice little touch. And a wall of lava. Can't dash through it. Can't shoot through it. So I'm thinking there must be some sort of lever I need to find in order to halt the lava flow, and that should let me get through it. But there's no lever anywhere. Now, the vines were a hint, but this is a continued use of a bad design choice. The answer is in Masha's whip again. See, you have to use the ice seeds this time in order to freeze the lava flows and get past them. So if you didn't happen to have ice seeds, you'll need to backtrack and grab them in order to make progress. Look, you can even freeze the fire geysers into pillars, and you can jump onto them. It doesn't get me anywhere, but it's cool that it can do that. Pass all the lava, and we finally make it to the Dead Sea. Don't fall in the water or you drown. These pumps can be used to lower or raise the water levels, indicated by the directional arrow, and reach new areas that were previously submerged or too high. See, this is exactly what I expected when we entered the lava region, so while I like this puzzle mechanic, it diverges from the previous pattern of all the other regions by not requiring powers or abilities. The ghosts are invincible, so just ignore them and look for Zuzu's soul. Another barrage of demons, and we get a cutscene where every Chiron in the game thanks us and says we will now get our local boat rides for free. Cool. You can see Zuzu's soul down below, and I know it's her because the color is slightly altered to match the sand area's little red and pink palette. So I'm trying to find just one more level that will take me where I need to go. In the meantime, I get a major level up and unlock multiple mid-air dash and another sub-loadout. It really feels like they're running out of ideas. So I still don't see anything, so I just go ahead and try something I'm pretty sure is not going to work. You can freeze the seawater. What the f*** And yes, this is the only area where you can do this in. You cannot freeze water anywhere else in the game, but if you relied on the game's logic being internally consistent, you would never solve this puzzle. This game has already shown that you can't freeze water, and it has already provided us a solution to the dropping water levels. So this feels like somebody couldn't think of a way to position the pumps in a spot that worked out for the players, so they decided at the last minute to change the area's mechanics. By the way, it doesn't even work in the entire area, only in a specific spot with no visual distinction. That's bad design. Speaking of bad design, let's look at my current situation. I press this pump and fill the area with water that will drown me. Pressing the pump does not put the water back down, and I have no more ice seeds to freeze the water, which shouldn't work anyway, which means that I have effectively soft-locked myself into this area. Or have I? It turns out that if you press the pump a few more times, it will drain completely back down. The arrows on the pumps don't really matter. Only the fill gauge matters. Another case of unintuitive mechanics. Go back to her body, bring her back, and she finally offers to help us pass the barrier under one condition. We get a special MacGuffin fruit in order to bring back one of the worms we killed. And she offers the first ever form of actual decent in-game guidance via the map section we have already unlocked. Back to the giant plant from before, and we get a new boss fight. Queen of the Forest, aka Freaky Poison Ivy from Wish. This is the exact type of shoehorn fan service I have come to expect, and as a matter of fact, it is so shoehorned that they actually pointed out in the cutscene dialogue. If I had a nickel for every time I fought a boss in this game with damage reaction jiggle physics, I'd have precisely 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's all you need to know in order to figure out the type of person this game was made for. Now, about the fight, it's basically a Smash Bros. Arena. One middle platform and a couple of flowers to each side that act as additional standing platforms. Falling off will damage you, falling off at low health causes death. Additionally, if a character dies due to falling off, you will reset at the last save point and completely reset the fight, which makes this whole segment annoying as hell because it's kind of hard to see where the edge of the platform is. She summons bomber bees, drops fruit from the middle platform, and attacks with falling plants and demon plants from the sides. For what it's worth, it's actually a mechanically interesting fight, but I cannot for the life of me keep my footing, and the booba definitely distracts. This is optimal DPS, just trust me. If they committed the same amount of effort that goes into consistently implementing the jiggle physics into the guidance system for the map, we would actually have a far better video game. Kill her and she drops the MacGuffin fruit. Back to the Demon Lord, who has her worm eat us and goes underground where the barrier can't penetrate. This is followed by another sticky fan service segment. And I don't suspect this is the last bit of it. The ominous moon in the background is giving me serious Majora's Mask vibes, and I'm honestly loving it. We come across this additional barrier which does extend underground, and Masha says a good punch should be enough to break it through the cracked surface. Fun note, if you continue to attack it after this hint plays, you'll get another one with the same suggestion, so you shouldn't miss it. A little bit of experimentation, and yep, Big Demon Punch is the solution. This is the kind of intuitive consistency that I expect from the game that I don't get from other places that I just wish that it did. It would be so much better. Watch out for these statues that will jump to life and attack you. It's the same hooded ninja enemies we've seen before in the ice area. This wall is solid, so no punching our way through it. We'll need to find another way to lift the barrier. You can freeze the rivers of slime just like the rivers of lava, so +1 credit for consistency where it's due. You can also freeze the slime faucets, but it's only temporary. We get a new trap, petrifying light beams. Don't get caught or you're in for a bad time. Level up one more time and get an additional jump. This is essentially worthless, but I head down and find that we've actually got a new transportation option via the worm. It's consistent and stylish. I like that you jump inside the worm's mouth to trigger it. Just as I'm lamenting about how it's too bad there's never anything actually substantial hidden behind these random secret spots, I smash another random spot, which opens up to a lever that I missed. And look here, a blood sprinkler designed to trigger the bloodthirsty plant traps from the desert. I love the thematic consistency. Find the core of the barrier, and with one big demonic fist, we blast it away permanently. And with that, all of the obstacles blocking us are now out of the way. Cut away to the villains, and they have completed their preparations. There's also a heart-looking thing beating very prominently in the background. The entire castle transforms into a giant spider-like mecha and attacks us, so it's time for another boss fight. Now, I'm going to go ahead and ignore what the entryway to the castle resembles a little bit too closely and focus on the fight. It summons minions, charges electrical balls, and ground pounds. Avoid all of the attacks and kill the minions. Eventually, the castle's core, similar to the one we saw earlier, will fly out. Hit it with Maximus Fist 3 times to win the fight. Castle comes down, and we get to enter where we find a new puzzle trap. Hit the switches to move the sliding floors. The electrified flooring will hurt you, and it cannot be frozen like the lava or the slime. Blue switches move blue floors, red switches move red floors. Throughout this level, they continue to combine this mechanic with the floating platform mechanic, which is a lot of fun, but I've run into a new issue. When I die here on this floating platform, I'm forced to return to my last save and continue the game as Kirika. Not a problem, I'll just make it back to the last spot and revive Masha. Except it's not possible because damage taken on the electrical floor resets all revive progress, and I cannot reach her on the only safe ground right next to her body. In other words, I'm playing the rest of this level solo until I can find a new save point and die. The spider elevator mechanic is used together with the lightning floor mechanic, and at the top we even get the petrifying beams and the enemies bursting through the windows. This is a fantastic combination of things happening all at once on the last level. We get another new mechanic. Is it just me, or were they literally holding out on all of the area mechanics until the final level? These Iron Maidens come to life and try to smash you. Avoid them and avoid the petrifying beams because that is a terrifying combo. The falling chandeliers are back together with the background windows. The side boosting mushrooms are back. Why the hell are mushrooms growing inside the castle? Wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't matter, it's awesome. That being said, they were really determined to bring back every single mechanic in the final area, and I am 100% here for it. Finally, we make it to the top of the castle, and the maid is back, and her boob window is just as wide as I remember. Side note, I googled boob window before this video to make sure I was using the term properly. Do not do that, it immediately links you to furry art. Back to the script. She has a couple of extra tricks as well as her old moveset with beefed up effects. Turning into bats, special hearts attack, and a special masochism attack where she stands in the middle and sends out huge waves of destructible bats, depending on how much damage she takes. She cannot be downed while she is in the middle of this move, so hit her one time after and that'll be the end of the fight. Finally take her down, and Lysanorg himself actually steps down to land the death blow. And what does Lysa have to say about this, you might ask? Why, only that his attacks always hurt the best with a blushed expression. Honestly, I'm just surprised they didn't throw in a full-blown Ahagal face here at the end. If you don't know what that means, don't Google it. Or do. It's your search history or whatever. I don't know, man. I can't run your life, but please, for the love of God, just don't. So, he has good news for us. The position of head maid has just opened up, and it'd be great if we took over the position from Lysa. But I've seen how he does his firing practices, and to be frank, I think the HR department could do with a bit of an overhaul, so we decline and then we fight. This is it. The final battle with the big bad from the very beginning of the game, and it is absolutely awful. In gaming, I believe there are three main categories of fights. There are easy fights, there are fair fights, and then there are difficult fights. This fight is horseshit. He opens up with this massive attack that has, from what I can see, no clear indication of where you're meant to stand in order to dodge it. So you're probably just going to eat shit immediately on the first strike. That black hole attack, hope you saved your demon powers for that specific moment, because without demon dash, you get sucked in and blasted with lightning. The sword sprouting from the ground, you don't get half a second from the time when the indicator spawns to when you are stabbed up the ass. Now, I know what you may be thinking after those few clips. Oh, look in the background. The towers of the background are the safe zone indicator. Oh, I can tell because he did it in the same spot twice. You're wrong. It's random. I have no idea how to deal with this final boss. So I do the one thing that I have been putting off. I am going to just tank the damage and chug potions until I make it to phase 2. And if you have a problem with this, you can go find another dumb mechanic. Remember how you can pick up over the limit of allowed items if it's dropped directly into your inventory? Right now, I have 201 weapons out of 200, meaning that I cannot use any of the items in the consumables tab, even if it would reduce the amount of items in the inventory. I have to go into my weapons tab and delete something permanently before I can start chugging. Lysanorg goes down, but it's not over yet. It's time for the only two-phase fight in the game. Remember how I said the creepy moon was giving huge Majora's Mask vibes? Well, the eyes start glowing and Lizzie starts monologuing. The giant heart is actually Maxim's heart that he stole after destroying his body and is stuffed with the souls of the other demon lords. He transforms into a humongous form and calls himself a demon overlord. A secret power-up passed down in Maxim's family that he somehow discovered and has decided to take for himself and make himself ultra super mega powerful and rule the demon world. Fight time. The heart and head are the only parts that take damage, so we focus on them. He's got the lightning blades from before, but they actually come out slower, so they're less dangerous. But now you have to destroy them or else they'll unleash a nearby electric blast. He'll drop some boxes, which actually make it easier to hit his body, but then break them with a sweeping punch. Taking down his health bar, and he comes back to life. Jump from hand to hand to stay off the ground, but be sure to jump off before they explode into more lightning. Lizzie goes down a second time, and he's back again. Okay, this is becoming concerning. Am I supposed to do something special to make sure he doesn't come back? Oh god, I hope not. He goes down for a third and final time, but then he comes back. Fortunately, this time it's a cutscene. Maxim tells us that he has infinite life, so no matter what, he'll keep coming back. But the damage is enough for him to fly into the heart, take control for a moment to allow for Kirika and Masha to deal the finishing blow with a special charged up friendship strike this ends Lizzie's reign of terror at the cost of Maxim's life. A final heroic sacrifice. Or it would have been if this was that kind of anime. Turns out he's simply reverted to child form because we didn't gather all of his bones for his body to regenerate properly. And of course, it goes without saying that they've had to throw in one last kink at the end. But this is actually the neutral ending. There are two possible endings depending on whether or not you reach the maximum level by collecting all of Maxim's bones. And let me tell you, from the perspective of classical storytelling, I absolutely hate this ending. So shout out to Hoji on YouTube for having the patience for this, because I absolutely don't. Like and subscribe to his channel. Maxim comes back to life and, more powerful than ever, states that he has been revived greater than ever before due to the power of love shown to him by his servants. And thanks to this power, he has regrown a new Overlord heart and, like the absolute brick shithouse of a man he is, one punches Lizzie to the moon. He literally wins by being the ultimate unironic Giga Chad Demon Lord. I mean, look at his sprite work. His fist is literally rendered larger than his head. Flash cut to the end where he declares that he will journey the world and discover blah 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 blah. It doesn't actually matter. This is the end of the game. So, Gal Guardians, Servants of the Dark. Is it the greatest RPG ever? Well, the combat is generally great fun. There's a huge variety of enemies to interact with and overcome throughout the entire game, most of which match whatever the zone's main theme is. Fiery enemies are in the volcano, ice enemies are in the frozen tundra, etc, etc. The bosses aren't overly complicated, but tend to provide a fair enough challenge if you're not using potions. If you are using potions, you can pretty much just face tank the entire game and not think about mechanics while just spamming your attack button until you win. Here's the thing, it's designed to mimic the old metroidvania games of the past, but it doesn't actually have the same limitations those games had. This game came out in 2025, which means that the small nagging elements of gameplay, in my opinion, should be addressed. There should be an indicator for what bones are missing. When I played, there was absolutely nothing. No counter, no telling you where to find it. Nothing. So you could have missed 15 or 40, and there was no way to tell how many or where. They fixed this by adding a bone counter in a later update. The tutorials did not tell you which buttons you actually had to press in order to use them. Again, this was added in a later update, but I did not get to enjoy it. The slippery floor feeling of movement sucks. The trap and area mechanics are varied and cool, but they don't meaningfully combine except for the ice areas and the final area, which are really fun, but highlight exactly how much better it could have been if they had been implemented in the other zones. The lack of explanation or hints behind how important Kirika's whip is to progression and area exploration is absolutely damning, because the elemental mechanics in the game are not consistent. They're designed to work when the game needs them to work, not when it makes sense. Freezing the water in the final area where freezing water doesn't work anywhere else is, by all accounts, bullshit. Burning the vines? Awesome! Only being able to burn them with Kirika's whip and no other form of fire? Bullshit. Speaking of bullshit, what the hell was the first phase of Lizzie? That was more than a skill check. That was a total wad of bullshit. The music doesn't really stand out, not really in a good way or a bad way. It was just sort of there providing background noise. The character and story writing are about in the same vein. The characters in mainline story are made up excessively of anime tropes with nothing particularly original to write home about. If you like incredibly tropey anime writing, then you'll probably enjoy it. If you're a stickler like I am, you'll probably find it childish and unimaginative. Everything works out perfectly, and there's not really a lesson to be learned by any of the characters because they objectively do the right thing that works out all of the time, and are only affected negatively by the actions of the evil antagonists. The fan service is what you would expect from a game that is, by all accounts, trying to be an anime. Random, unwarranted, and exists for no other purpose than to appeal to a specific crowd, which, despite how my tone may come across, is fine. Just don't expect to walk away from this in awe of the dynamic, impactful storytelling. Not everything can be clear obscure. If you can forgive the several design inconsistencies, incredibly bothersome lack of player direction, and lack of impactful story, there is a genuinely fun game to be found here. It really felt like it was trying to go back in time to the old Game Boy Advance era games, but a bit more refinement of gameplay via directional guidance and commitment to stacking some of the genuinely cool area mechanics more frequently would have gone a long way to improving my experience I had with the game. In the end, the reviews write themselves. This is your average anime experience out of 10. I appreciate you all for watching. I'm back to streaming over on Twitch, so feel free to stop by. Thanks again, and I'll see you all in the next one.